A person approached me with a large boning knife.
What was going through your mind at that point?
I just thought, I can't believe I'm going to die at the back of this shop.
There's so much crime happening around the place. People just don't feel safe at the moment.
Oh, get out of here, get out of here.
Last year, Townsville experienced its highest crime rates in more than 2 decades, more than 43,000 offences. During a year-long police operation of more than 1,300 offenders charged, nearly 1,000 of them were children. Images like these, cars stolen and driven by young teenagers, are dividing this community. And so much of it plays out on the Townsville Crime Alerts Facebook page, where more than 37,000 members share their concerns. Restaurant owner Alan Pike has had his business targeted multiple times.
That was the window that was broken, the door here.
Yep.
So coming with a big solid rock about that round.
He now worries the community is at breaking point.
The biggest thing is they're not even going to let it get to the justice system. It's the fear that's happening because nothing's being done about it.
You just explain what you mean by that.
Well, vigilantism. You know, people aren't going to just let them sit back anymore and take things. You know, they're going to dish out their own justice. And they're going to start saying, well, OK, if the law and the justice system's not going to do anything about it, then we're going to have to stop it.
OK, Townsville, this is what happens to the little bitch-ass boys that want to try break into houses.
What do you say to those people that express those sorts of views? You know, the police can't do much, and if this keeps going, we'll take it into our own hands.
The police can do stuff, and we do a lot of work in the background and also in the foreground.
And on social media, it's clear patience is wearing thin.
What's striking about this community page is how much security footage is being posted by members of the public of Aboriginal kids accused of attempting to or committing crimes. Sometimes their faces are completely visible and essentially people being asked to identify them.
Here, a child is accused of stealing some sneakers. In this post, teenagers are being pointed out in the Coles car park and accused of wrongdoing. And this group of small children are accused of stealing a car. It's not only Aboriginal kids committing crime here, it's kids from all backgrounds. But in the comments on this page, it is hard to ignore the racial undertones.
Forced sterilisation of certain sections of the community is the only option left.
Bring back public floggings and hangings now.
He's a that's why. Just imagine putting their teeth on the gutter and jumping.
So what do police think about images of children being posted and shared in this way?
That information and the footage that those people provide, as long as they also provide that information to police to allow our investigations and investigators to actively pursue these people, that is the really important part of it.
Some offenders themselves are also sharing their activities online.
Is it feeding more? I don't know that it's feeding more, but it's definitely encouraging the cohort of which we're talking about to continue to commit offences.
We're just going to have to drive by it.
Services like the Indigenous-run Lighthouse are successfully steering kids away from crime. They know that once they're in the justice system, it'll be hard to get them out.
We're just going to go to the shopping centres to see if any of our young people are needing to be diverted home so that they don't engage in criminal activities here. Our main focus is the well-being of our young people.
Tonight, Kamara finds a few kids in a shopping centre car park.
We've got one of our young people that's just going over near the police officers.
While he's taken away by detectives, there's still concern for one other child. They need his parents' consent to pick him up and drop him home.
I'm sure when people watch this on telly, they'll ask the question, what are the kids doing out? Why are they at home? How do you explain that?
Well, we always say that, look, people don't know what young people's lives are like at home. There are a lot of underlying issues. Unless you either work in this kind of service doing what we do, people don't know what happens.
Is your hometown safe?
Not at all. We are under siege. And every resident you talk to will say the same thing.
2 months ago, Sonia was held at knife point at her part-time job in a convenience store.
He kept turning back at me with the knife, saying, don't you run out of this shop, don't you run out of this shop. And I ran for my life. I left my car keys and handbag and phone and just abandoned the shop for my life.
Sonia is still off work recovering. The alleged attacker, a young adult who's previously spent time in juvenile detention.
They're not made accountable. They know they're untouchable. So they just keep doing what they're doing.
Local federal MP Philip Thompson argues the solution is tougher sentencing.
Yeah, 100%. There is no punishment for bad behaviour.
Queensland government figures show that in the year up to March 2021, 95% of those released from Townsville's Cleveland Youth Detention Centre were accused of another crime within 12 months.
I would take my family there for a holiday if there wasn't a bunch of criminals in there. They've got a pool, they've got a gym, they have pizza nights, they've got basketball courts, they've got football area, they've got a workshop to work on cars, and now they go into detention and get all these rewards. And you don't want to be rewarding bad behaviour.
Do you have much confidence in that producing outcomes?
Absolutely. We've seen a number of young people turn their lives around and move away from that. We're also trying to make sure that we're engaging before that stage.
There are people in this community that say young people are committing serious crimes, they should face tough justice. What do you say to that?
You can penalise kids, but that's not going to change their behaviour. If we keep penalising kids, then they're going to be more likely to end up in adult prisons.
There's an argument here that boredom is a major factor. Organisations like the PCYC offer services to counter that.
Why is it important that there is stuff for young people to do?
Well, we need programs like this that you can see today because they run out of those normal 8 to 5 hours.
Arika Appleby says there's no reason for any kids to be bored.
You just have to look around. Look what amazing things are happening here just today, and there's a lot of programs very similar to this. So there's lots of great things happening in Townsville.
1, 2, 3.
While it's clear many are fed up with the not-so-great things happening in Townsville, the question is whether this community is prepared to invest in and be patient with solutions that perhaps don't look quite so tough on crime, but do produce results.
People do feel like prisoners in their own home, and people are scared at night.
Justice system is working for the people doing the crimes, not the people who are getting the crimes done to them.
Look, 43,000 offences recorded. There's no doubt that there is a crime problem in Townsville. The issue is crime there. That community Facebook group I found personally disgusting, and just the thought of vigilantism there. But also, you look at those stats and yes, they're alarming. 95% of offenders reoffending in that first 12 months after they get out. Now, you could look at that as that being, as the MP said there, it's not tough enough. We need to make tougher sentencing. But you could also look at it and say, well, that actually isn't working. Whatever that punishment that you're dishing out there isn't working. And then you've got that incredible organisation, Lighthouse, that's doing, by the looks of it, brilliant work.
Look, it's clear that those diversionary programs work because it means that a child that might otherwise end up at the end of the evening in police hands probably ends up at home or at least in safe hands. I think, it's really clear that the community's divided about this. Yep. We spoke to some Indigenous elders that said, look, there isn't enough respect from young people and that needs to change. You do need to be tough to get that. But it is also clear that things like juvenile detention aren't really producing the results. And things like Lighthouse and the program that runs it costs about $25 million a year. About half that funding comes from the state government. It's only secured funding until June of this year. Meanwhile, the Queensland government's talking about a $500 million additional juvenile detention centre. So really the communities are grappling with this. What is the best way at the end of the day to prevent more of this sort of crime?
It's nuanced.